Have you ever walked into a supermarket just to buy a carton of milk and a loaf of bread, only to walk out 45 minutes later with a cart full of things you didn't even know you needed? You might think you just have poor impulse control, but the truth is far more sinister. You are not a bad shopper. You are the victim of a highly engineered, multi-billion-dollar psychological battlefield designed to hack your brain's ancient survival mechanisms. Every single square inch of a modern grocery store is meticulously crafted to bypass your logical thinking and tap directly into your subconscious. This phenomenon has a name in the retail industry. It's called the Gruen effect, named after the architect Victor Gruen, who originally designed shopping malls to purposefully disorient visitors. When you enter a space that intentionally confuses your sense of direction, your brain enters a state of mild sensory overload. In this state of mild confusion, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational decision-making and budgeting, starts to power down. You forget your original purpose for being there, and you become highly susceptible to environmental cues and emotional suggestions. Let's walk through the store exactly how they want you to. First, the entrance. Have you ever noticed that almost every major supermarket forces you to walk through the fresh produce and floral departments the second you walk through the automatic sliding doors? This is not because vegetables are the most popular item. This is a tactic known as decompression and priming. The bright colors of the flowers and the crisp, water-misted apples trigger an evolutionary response in your brain associated with abundance, health, and vitality. By placing the healthiest, most visually appealing items at the very front of the store, the supermarket successfully lifts your mood. But more importantly, it tricks you into making what behavioral psychologists call licensing choices right off the bat. Because you started your shopping trip by putting a bag of organic spinach or some fresh bananas into your cart, you subconsciously give yourself a moral license to buy junk food later. You feel good about your healthy choices, so your brain says it's perfectly fine to reward yourself with cookies in aisle 4. Speaking of your cart, have you ever noticed how massive shopping carts have become? Since the 1970s, the average supermarket shopping cart has tripled in size. This is entirely by design. Our brains are hardwired to gather and stockpile resources. When you push a massive empty cart around, it creates a subtle, subconscious sense of anxiety. Your brain feels a primal urge to fill the empty space. Studies have shown that simply doubling the size of the shopping cart leads customers to buy up to 40% more items. Now, what about that milk you originally came in for? Dairy products, meats, and eggs are considered destination items. They are the absolute essentials that almost every shopper needs. So, where do supermarkets put them? Always at the very back corners of the store. This is a layout strategy called the boomerang effect. To get your basic necessities, you are forced to traverse the entire length of the store. You have to walk past thousands of highly profitable, non-essential items, exposing yourself to countless temptations and brightly colored advertisements. And as you walk down those aisles, your eyes are being manipulated. In the retail world, there is a famous saying, eye level is buy level. Brands pay supermarkets massive premiums, often called slotting fees, to have their products placed exactly at the eye level of the average adult. If you look closely at the shelves, the generic cheaper store brands are almost always relegated to the bottom shelves where you have to bend down, or the very top shelves where you have to reach. The most expensive, high-margin items are placed directly in your line of sight so you don't even have to think. But the most devious application of this rule happens in the cereal aisle. If you look at sugary, brightly colored kids' cereals, you'll notice they are placed on the lower shelves. Why? Because that is the exact eye level of a small child sitting in a shopping cart. Even creepier, researchers at Cornell University analyzed the mascots on these cereal boxes. They found that the cartoon characters on kids' cereals are drawn with their eyes pointing slightly downward at a 9.6-degree angle. This means the mascots are literally making direct eye contact with your children to trigger a psychological connection and initiate pester power. Once your child is demanding the sugary cereal, it's often easier for an exhausted parent to just throw it in the massive cart than to cause a scene. The supermarket relies on this exact social dynamic, but the manipulation doesn't stop at what you can see. It also targets what you hear. Listen closely the next time you're shopping. Supermarkets never play fast, upbeat music. They intentionally play slow, relaxing music with a tempo that is slower than the average human heartbeat, usually around 60 to 80 beats per minute. Why does the tempo matter? Because humans unconsciously synchronize their movements to the rhythm of their environment. By playing slow music, the supermarket literally slows down your physical walking speed. The slower you walk, the longer you stay in the store, and the longer you stay, the more money you spend. In fact, research conducted by marketing professor Ronald Milliman found that playing slow music in supermarkets increased sales by a staggering 38% compared to fast music. You are being lulled into a trance-like state, a hypnotic stroll through a maze of consumerism. Then there is the manipulation of your sense of smell. Scent is the sense most strongly tied to memory and emotion. Many modern grocery stores purposefully pump the smell of freshly baked bread or roasted chicken into the ventilation system, wafting it toward the front doors. This isn't just to make the store smell nice. The scent of baking bread triggers salivary glands and makes you instantly hungry. And, as any seasoned shopper knows, the absolute worst thing you can do is go grocery shopping on an empty stomach. A hungry brain is an impulsive brain. Now let's talk about pricing psychology. You've seen it a million times, an item priced at $4.99 instead of $5. This is called charm pricing, or the left digit effect. Because we read from left to right, our brain anchors onto the first number it sees. Even though $4.99 is practically $5, your subconscious brain categorizes it as being in the $4 range. This tiny 1-cent difference can increase sales of an item by over 24%. But the pricing tricks get far more sophisticated than that. Have you ever encountered the decoy effect? Imagine you are looking to buy a blender. There's a cheap one for $30, but it looks flimsy. Then there is a premium one for $120. You probably won't buy the premium one, it feels too expensive. But what if the supermarket places a third blender right in the middle? A decent-looking one for $85. Suddenly, the $85 blender looks like a rational, smart compromise. You feel like a savvy consumer who avoided the cheap junk and the overpriced luxury item. But here is the secret. The supermarket never expected anyone to buy the $120 blender. It was put there purely as a decoy. Its only purpose is to make the $85 blender look like a bargain, convincing you to spend significantly more than the $30 you originally intended. By the time you finally make it to the checkout lanes, you have been subjected to an exhausting gauntlet of psychological warfare. You've navigated mazes, suppressed impulses, calculated prices, and made dozens of micro-decisions. Your brain is tired. This leads to a phenomenon known as decision fatigue. When your willpower is depleted from making so many choices, you lose the ability to resist immediate gratification. And what is waiting for you at the checkout counter? A highly concentrated wall of candy bars, sugary sodas, tabloids, and chewing gum. You are stuck in line. You can't move. You are staring at a massive hit of dopamine, and your tired brain finally gives up. You grab a chocolate bar. The supermarket has successfully squeezed one last impulse purchase out of you before you escape the building. So, how do you fight back against a system that knows your own mind better than you do? The first step is simply awareness. By understanding the invisible forces at play, from the tempo of the music to the angle of the cartoon eyes, you can break the spell. Always shop with a strict written list. Don't use the massive shopping carts if you only need a few items. Carry a handbasket instead. The physical weight of the basket will remind you of how much you're buying. And above all else, never ever go to the supermarket hungry. The next time you walk through those automatic sliding doors and smell the fresh flowers, remember, you are not walking into a store. You are stepping into a machine designed to separate you from your money. Keep your eyes forward, get your milk, and get out.